Hey everyone, Morgan here. So today I'm going to talk about the top 10 things that I think preppers should learn how to make. You know, when it comes to the kind of atmosphere and society that I feel like we're flowing back to, you know, there was a really good comment from one of my friends over at the Prepper Broadcasting Network. And he said, you know, we have been doing these primitive and outdoor skills for thousands of years, and it took 100 years for us to forget them. Isn't that crazy? When you think of it in those terms, that's insanity to think of it like that. And it's so true. It took 100 years for us to completely throw all of those skills out the window. You know, it's not like every single person ever forgot about those skills. You know, there's so many people that are living, you know, a self-sustaining or, you know, making things from scratch lifestyle. I mean, look at the Amish. They're still doing their thing, right? And there's lots of people still living these very off-grid lives. So it's not like every single person is like this. But, you know, for society as a whole, we really have forgotten a lot of our roots. And, you know, I mean, we're just living in this modern society. It's not necessarily a bad thing to, you know, not do these things, but it is kind of a bad thing to forget about them, to forget about these things and just stop doing them altogether, you know. Okay, so the first one's going to be learning how to make your own bullets as well as learning how to make your own arrows. I feel like they're kind of combined. But learning how to cast your own bullets, one, and then learning how to actually reload your ammo, those are both really good things to know how to do. And then along with that, knowing how to like make arrows, make arrowheads, things that can help you hunt, and for self-defense purposes, those are all really handy to know how to do. Now there are some investment in things that you need to know how to do, but learning how to do it now and starting to, you know, learn how to do that stuff are going to be very, very helpful. All right, the next one is learning how to make knives. Now you don't have to make super complicated knives. Sometimes you just need a sharp object, right? You can make knives out of rocks. You can make knives out of, you know, like a saw blade. You can make knives out of very basic items that you already have around. You know, it's just making that sharp object. You kind of have to rethink and reshape your mind about what a knife actually is, you know? But, you know, learning how to actually make your own knife and then having the tools necessary to make it, pretty important. So kind of look into that. Again, you don't have to make the knife from scratch necessarily. You can use scrap metals or scrap pieces or whatever in order to make a knife. It may not be exactly like, you know, a traditional knife or whatever. Like if you were a blacksmith or something, you may want to learn blacksmithing if that's something you really want to get into. You know, make your own nails. Hey, so yeah. But learning how to just make a very basic knife, especially, you know, making a knife out of, you know, rocks and things like that, you know, making an axe and things like that out of just rocks. Really, really actually a lot simpler than it sounds. All right, the next thing is knowing how to make food. That's right, knowing how to make food. And of course what I'm talking about is growing food. But again, you don't have to be complicated with growing the food. Very basic small gardens will be fine. Container gardening's great. Container gardens, great. Microgreens, sprouting, that's all creating food out of these small little things, right? So growing your own food and making your own food, very, very, gonna be very helpful. All right, now that you know how to grow your own food, now it's time to learn how to make food from scratch. So do you know how to make these certain things from scratch? Like, let's say you do have cows. Do you know how to make butter? Do you know how to make these other things from scratch? Do you know how to make bread from scratch? Do you know how to make tortillas from scratch? Do you know how to make flatbread from scratch? Do you know how to make apple cider vinegar from scratch? Do you know how to make vinegar from scratch? You know, do you know how to make these things? Get books and learn how to make these things from scratch. While preparedness is super important, and I totally advise it, you know, prepare all that food, get all that food. At a certain point, you will have to know, excuse me, how to make certain things from scratch, right? All right, the next one is going to be learning how to make clothes from scratch. Clothing and shoes, learning how to make these things from scratch. And, you know, I'm not necessarily talking about, you know, getting the wool or getting the cotton and turning that into fabric, whatever, but actually making clothes. Sure, if you have a way to actually, you know, turn wool or cotton or whatever into fabric, that's fantastic. Also, there's leather, you know, learning how to work with leather to make clothes from leather, and making clothes from fur and all that other stuff. So, you know, learning how to actually make clothing how to make gloves, how to make shoes, how to make socks, how to make underwear, how to make shirts, how to make, you know, coats, how to make all these things from scratch. All right, the next one's going to be learning how to make beer and wine. I know this kind of seems like, why is this important? A lot of people, you know, they've been making beer and wine ever since they learned that, you know, the yeast from the air came down and, you know, turned grapes into wine. You know, ever since they learned how to do that, that was like a miracle to them, right? And it's still definitely, I think, would be important, you know, having that beer or wine. You know, learning how to do those things is definitely going to be a morale booster and good for trading and good for just a variety of things. Next one's going to be learning how to make your own hygiene items, learning how to make your own soap, learning how to make your own you know, alcohol, learning how to make your own you know, shampoos, learning how to make your own deodorants, learning how to make your own hygiene things, toothpaste, all these things. These things are so simple to make ourselves. Learning how to make your own baby wipes, make your own disinfecting wipes. Make all this stuff yourself. It's so easy and takes just like a couple things, a few ingredients. Well, soap takes a few extra ingredients and a little bit of time and know-how and all that, especially if you get to lie yourself. It's like a whole thing, but not hard to learn at all. Sounds intimidating, not hard though. Okay, it just takes a little bit of time and consistency to learn these things, but very easy. The next one's going to be making your own fire starters. You know, I think that when it comes to just in general self-sufficiency, I think that fire is going to be used quite a bit. So knowing how to start a fire, not necessarily, you know, I mean, knowing how to make fires, you know, with natural materials is also going to be really helpful. You know, wax with natural materials, always going to be a really smart thing to do. You know, of course, stock up on all the fire starters, right? But knowing how to actually make your own is very efficient as well, especially when it comes to learning how to make fire starters with those natural materials. You know, not with the, you know, chemical stuff or whatever, but making it with those natural materials. Very helpful. Next one's going to be learning how to make shelters and buildings from scratch. You know, it's really easy to look at a building and be like, yeah, I could do that, but it's another to actually do it, you know. Putting practice, you know, putting a theory into practice is completely different, you know. In a self-sufficient world, you are going to want to build homes, build sheds, build cold storage, build, you know, shelters, build things, you know, build a chicken coop, you know, build whatever out of, you know, materials. So you're going to want to know how to build these things from scratch. And of course, if you're a blacksmith, you can make your own nails too. Haha. Okay, so, and the next one is going to be making your own medicine. I did a video a while back about making tinctures. That is a form of making your own medicine, growing your own herbs, doing all these things to make your own medicine, medicinal herbs, growing them, all these things to learn the natural medicinal ways so that you can help treat yourself, you know, make your own salves, all these different things. And, you know, get your bees so you can have your wax so you can make that salve, you know what I mean, from your herbs that you grow. Bada bing, bada boom. I mean, it's a whole process, but learning how to make those medicines yourself is what, you know, people used to do for thousands of years. You know, we didn't have pharmaceuticals, so, you know, learning how to treat and diagnose and treat and make your own medicines, always helpful. So thank you all so much for watching. Conquer tomorrow by preparing today. Let me know in the comments down below about some other things that we should be making from scratch and learning how to do those things. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.